Hello, third graders. Today I'm going to read chapter 6 of Poppy. The vocab word is generosity. And as we left off, they just saw Mr. Wilcox. Chapter 6, Standing Before Mr. Wilcox. The leaves of the oak trees around Mr. Wilcox's oak shield him from the rain. But Poppy and her father were being drenched. The owl's head, moreover, was pulled down between his wings, while his eyes, enormously wide and unblinking, gave Poppy the sensation that there was nothing she might do, or even think of doing, which he would not see. To Poppy he seemed to be pure power and fury. Wanting to look away, she glanced at the base of Mr. Wilcox's tree. There lay what appeared to be a mound of pebbles. Gradually, a ghastly realization came over her that what she was seeing was a mound of Mr. Wilcox's unchucked pellets. The closely packed and undigested bits of fur and bone from his dinners. The vision made her blood turn cold. Only the sound of Mr. Wilcox's sneering voice jolted her back to alertness. "What do you want, Mr. Lungwort?" the owl demanded, his claws continually flexing on his perch. Lungwort, holding cap in hand like an empty bucket, said, "May I wish you a very pleasant evening, Mr. Wilcox?" "It's not very pleasant," Mr. Wilcox returned with a snarl. "No, well, you're absolutely right there, Mr. Wilcox," Lungwort replied, straining to sound jaunty. "But April showers, as the song goes, brings May flowers, and Mr. Wilcox clacked his beak. "Lungwort, it's summer. Do you come here to sing me idiot songs, or do you have something important to say?" "Well, in fact, I did bring. Hurry up. I've not eaten my dinner yet, and I'm hungry." "Well, yes, of course," Lungwort said. "I understand perfectly." Lungwort hastily put on his hat, not noticing until too late that it was filled with rain. Water cascaded over his head. With a nervous shake, he fumbled to unroll his speech paper. Before he could get it out, Mr. Wilcox's eyes grew bigger. "Who's that?" he demanded, as he moved his head about to bring Poppy into better focus. "Forgive me. I've been rude," Lungwort said. "This is one of my dutiful daughters." Poppy stepped forward. "Look up. There's the good mouse. Mr. Wilcox, may I introduce Poppy to you?" Prodded by her father, she stepped forward gingerly. All she could see was Mr. Wilcox's eyes. She felt not just looked at, but attacked. "Poppy, eh?" he growled. I think we've met before." "One of my sweetest," Lungwort offered. Mr. Wilcox ignored him. Instead, he said, "What happened to your nose, little girl?" I scraped it." "A close call, I'd say." "Yes, sir." "Little girl mice should be more careful." "Yes, sir." "Do you understand me?" Poppy longed to run away. Lungwort nudged her. "Poppy dear, Mr. Wilcox asked if you are understanding him." "Yes, sir, I do." Poppy squeaked with a bob of her head. "All right then," Mr. Wilcox said. "Now be a good little girl and come stand under my tree while I talk to your father." Hating herself for acting so fearful, queasy at the thought of going closer to a mound of pellets, Poppy appealed to her father with a look. Lungwort, however, only nodded. "Move it," Mr. Wilcox snapped. Averting her eyes from the pellets, Poppy crept towards the tree, the flag dragon behind her. But when she reached the spot, she was unable to resist the fascination of the horrible mound. Once she looked, she caught sight of something that glittered. "All right, Lungwort," Mr. Wilcox said. "Let's hear what you have to say." "Thank you, sir, thank you." Lungwort held out his piece of paper. "Now the thimbleful of water. as well as the rain had drenched it. All the same, he tried to read. Whereas Mr. Ocox, great horned owl, ruler of Dimwood Forest region, who, out of the kindness and wisdom, protects all members of the deer mice family. Whereas said family of deer mice, living in Grey House in return for Mr. Ocox's permission, have agreed to ask his permission whenever they wish to move about. Whereas the deer mice family, having grown so great in numbers, need a second place of habitation so as to maintain and enhance their lives with sufficient food. And Lungwort paused to shake the paper. And what? Mr. Ocox demanded. The paper is somewhat wet, Lungwort apologized. So is the style. Go on, Mr. Ocox observed. Lungwort cleared his throat and continued to read. Whereas Mr. Ocox, protector of deer mice, is famous for his kindness, generosity, and compassion. Therefore, stop. Yes? Repeat that. What? The line about me. About kindness, generosity, and compassion? Right. I like it. That's well written. Yes, thank you. I wrote it. Whereas Mr. Ocox, protector of deer mice, is famous for his kindness, generosity, and compassion. Therefore, said deer mice of said Grey House, humbly petition said Mr. Ocox well, get to the point, Mr. Ocox screeched in exasperation. I'm sorry, the rain has washed away the rest of my writing, he said. Then just dump it and say what you want, the owl boomed. We humbly request your permission to move, Lungwort finally said. To move? Yes. Why? I said we are too many. We need more food. Well, where do you want to go? To Newhouse. First, Mr. Ocox blinked. Next, he swiveled his head around, frowning first at Lungwort, then down at Poppy, then again at Lungwort. Finally, he said, You mean that new place up along the tar road beyond Newfield? Poppy thought she heard something new in Mr. Ocox's voice. She tried to grasp it. Yes, sir. Mr. Ocox hesitated. Well, where have you been there? Now Poppy was sure. It was uncertainty that she was hearing. Have you been there? Mr. Ocox demanded shrilly. Well, the truth is, my friend, Mr. Yes or no, the owl screamed. Well, no, not exactly, but my friend told me it would be an excellent source of food for half my family. And, Lungwort, I forbid you to move to Newhouse, Mr. Ocox interrupted. What? Lungwort gasped, flapping the rain away from his face with a paw. The word had all but stuck in his throat. Permission denied, Lungwort. You cannot move to Newhouse. But why, sir? Because I said no. But Grey House area does not provide enough food. It's urgent that some of us move so we can survive. And no to Newhouse. Now I've got a dinner to catch. So you'd better skedaddle. Unless, of course, you want to please me by leaving your daughter, then I might reconsider, the owl chuckled. But Mr. Ocox leaned forward. Hoo, hoo, he wailed in his loudest but lowest voice. The sound exploded over them. Poppy, clapping paws to ears, ran out from under the tree towards her father, who was still standing there, stammering. But, come on, Papa, Poppy urged, trying to turn her father around. We better go. With difficulty, she turned him. Lungwort, Mr. Ocox called suddenly. Lungwort whirled so fast the thimble fell off his head. Bowing, smiling, he began, You were just teasing, weren't you? Listen to me, Lungwort, Mr. Ocox cried. I have two more things to say to you. First, pass the word along to your friends that I've spotted a new porcupine around Dimwood. Porcupine? Lungwort echoed dumbly. A particularly vicious one, but don't worry, I'll protect you. Second, it's about your daughter there. If you want a reason for my refusal, ask her how she and I met before. Reason? She didn't ask permission to go to the hill. That's why you can't go to Newhouse. Yes, but beat it, Lungwort, now. Come on, Papa, we better leave. Lungwort glanced about for his thimble hat. It had rolled away. It was Poppy who retrieved it and put it on his head. Resigned, a sagging Lungwort allowed himself to be led away. Poppy glanced at her father. All traces of dignity were gone. The wetness that ran down his face was not rain, but tears. Poppy hardly tried to keep the flag aloft, and as they trudged home, she kept stealing looks into one of her paws. In it was clenched something she had pried from one of Mr. Ocock's pellets, Ragweed's earring.